So when you kind of stop and think about it, it's somewhat strange that we kind of send our children off to spend many, many hours a week in the institution of school. We have a lot of faith in it. We trust that it is a good thing in and of itself, but it's not often that we question why we allow school to play such a large role in the raising of our children and ask ourselves, what is the purpose of school? So essentially, if you take a minute to think about what the purpose of school is, you're likely to come up with one of the three following categories. Either you believe that school is for occupational preparation, it is getting you ready to participate in the next stage of school or in the job market. You may alternatively think that the main role of school is the cultivation of citizenship. They are getting you ready to participate in the wider culture, the norms, the morals of the place you live. And there's a third element that historically hasn't been quite as important, but you might feel that school's role is to get you ready for your own personal development, participate as an individual, and to work on your own skills and talents so that you can take them into the society and culture that you will be entering. And in reality, you probably have some kind of combination of those three. Now, those three aims are entirely worthy within a society. We have roles that the youth must enter into, and the culture we have is described by the writer Seth Godin, who said, "People like us do things like this." And so we want the individuals to actualize themselves in the areas of life, society, in the areas that we have deemed as important. Whether we have explicitly stated those or whether they are just implicit in our culture, whatever, that is what we value inside the school. So one way to think of school is that it's a social or cultural incubator, and it's where we develop adults for our culture and our society. Now, that sounds like a really practical kind of purpose of school. But another way to think of it is that it is the answer to that fundamental existential question of how should a human live their life? And you can look to school for some evidence of our cultural answer. Depending on where we are, the answer is slightly different. So too often, the former of that social cultural incubator is given privilege over the latter of this idea of how humans should live their life when we're attempting to change and improve schools. Now we, as members of society, in some way, we get to decide what we require students to do. And one of the current ways we do this is within the curriculum. And our curriculums are essentially a to-do list. They're the things that we say that the humans, as they're growing and passing through our system, need to come in contact with, maybe gain some skills and knowledge in this area before becoming an adult in our society. Now, when you look at it that way, you might think, really, this list of curriculum objectives, it's what we're centering around 10 to 15 years of our children's lives around. But when you look at that particular curriculum, whichever one, maybe it doesn't look like a recipe for a practical, meaningful, or even enjoyable life. So if you go to your government's website, whichever country you live in, whichever state, and you take a look at it, take a read of it and think, am I actually convinced that this is what my child should be spending most of their education doing? Now, it could be. You could think that everything on that list is in the right place and that's all that's required. And if so, great. Please stay in contact with your schools, play a really important part in your child's education. However, if, like myself and Rob, as teachers and as myself as a parent, have looked at any of the curriculums and thought, I'm not 100% convinced that this is exactly what my child or my student should really be learning and engaging with in their childhood, well, then Reinventing Education is for you.